Have you been in a situation where things were so bad that you would do anything to change your circumstance? It might even seem hard to imagine what life was like before things turned upside down for you. It might be even harder to imagine what life would be like if circumstances did change for the better. I want to introduce you to a woman who remains unnamed in Scripture. Her story commences with limited information about her background. Mark chapter 5 verse 35 allows us to know this woman has had a bleeding condition for 12 years. She probably has suffered the indignity of explaining her story too many times to too many doctors. She has had little success of being treated or even cured. No one has been able to help this woman. She has spent all her money on seeking a cure which has not happened. In fact, her condition got worse. It is her encounter with Jesus that brings this woman's story to our attention. I want you to picture the scene. She is a woman on her own. She is a woman alone in her pain. She is unclean because of her health. She probably has no family to support her, and she is not part of Jesus' kinship group, that is, his own family or social group. A crowd has gathered in the city because Jesus is among them. But another story is interwoven with this unnamed woman's story. Jairus is a synagogue ruler and comes to Jesus and pleads with him to visit his home. Jairus is a recognized and influential person in the city. His 12-year-old daughter is dying, but the contrast is made between the two females. The younger female is described as a daughter. She has a father who advocates on her behalf. The other female is the unnamed woman. She has no relational connection identified in her story, not yet. She has no man to advocate on her behalf. She is there on her own and in need of healing. So the unnamed woman decides to push through the crowd to see Jesus. You can imagine how the crowd would not be happy with this woman. She was banished from society and she was neglected. She was perhaps looked upon with suspicion and hate rather than with love and acceptance. No one would want to claim responsibility for her. She would not be welcome there among them. This woman had obviously heard the story of Jesus healing people. This was her opportunity to be healed too. She had nothing to lose by trying to reach out to Jesus. This unnamed woman shows she had faith that Jesus could heal her too. Verse 28 records her thoughts. If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. As she touches his cloak, she knows immediately that she has been healed. Perhaps that is all that she would hope would happen. Perhaps she was wanting to slip quietly away. She would not want to be noticed anymore. She has done what she had hoped for. She got the result she'd been waiting to receive for years. She was about to realize that this was not going to be the end of her encounter with Jesus. It was at that point Jesus stops and asks a question. This question might seem a little unusual to the crowd pushing in around him. In verse 31, Jesus asks, "Who touched my clothes?" The disciples say to Jesus in verse 32, "You see the people crowding against you, and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" The disciples probably wanted to avert the attention away from this unwelcomed woman. They probably did not want Jesus to know that she existed. Instead, this woman now comes before Jesus and explains her story. In that moment, she receives so much more than she expected. She had enough faith for her healing, and she was now healed. But Jesus offers her even more. She is still unnamed, but she is given a new title. In verse 34, Jesus declares in front of everyone, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." This woman had lived on the fringe of society for 12 years. The crowd would have ignored her or simply passed by her. But Jesus changes all of that. The crowd did not accept her as one of their own. Instead, Jesus accepts her. Jesus' declaration to call her daughter brings her right into the middle of his kinship group. She is now accepted as one of his family. For 12 years, she would have been banished from a family or social group. No one was there to support her. No one was there to show her love and compassion. In this declaration, Jesus reminds her that she is a person of worth. She is a daughter who is important in the family. She has now been provided with a title that reminds her that she belongs. So what can we learn from the story of this unnamed woman? She comes to Jesus at her most vulnerable. She is prepared to be ridiculed by the crowd. She wants to be healed, and she has the faith in Jesus to know that he can do it. She is prepared to risk the indignity of no one advocating on her behalf. She is determined that she will not leave this encounter the same way as she arrived. She indeed shows great courage. Even if her faith was small, this encounter with Jesus would have given her even greater faith. She could say that she is healed in two ways. First, physically healed from her condition. Second, emotionally healed as she has been accepted and identified as a daughter. Health and a sense of belonging are two significant things that have been missing in her life for the last 12 years. Here is a woman who shows us that we can come to Jesus in our most vulnerable condition. We will not be turned away. We will be accepted. We will be embraced. Other people may reject or ignore us. Some people may criticize us behind our backs. We know that Jesus' response to us will be one of love and acceptance. The pain we have experienced may have been hard to bear. As Christians, we are not immune to painful experiences in life. We often face difficulties, and as a result, sometimes our faith may seem weak. By this woman's actions, she allows us to consider the following question for ourselves. Do we have the courage to reach out to Jesus in the time of our own greatest need? I like that this woman remains unnamed. Her story reminds us that when we reach out to Jesus, we find acceptance and love. The unnamed woman could be any one of us who comes to Jesus for our own needs to be met. Like the unnamed woman, Jesus gives us the title of daughter. This is significant. He reminds us that we belong. Be encouraged by this woman's faith. Despite her vulnerable condition, she makes a bold decision. She was prepared to reach out towards Jesus. In your time of greatest need, may you be assured of Jesus' unconditional love. Even if your faith seems small, may your own fresh encounter with Jesus assure you that he embraces you as a daughter. And may God bless you.